Welcome to CRK Training. I'm Callie. You're watching my weekly video show, and today I want to share a concept with you that has done a lot to improve my own riding and my teaching. And this is Promise with her head in the background here, joining in our video. So the concept that I wanted to share is using different tools and exercises to discover new feelings and new ways of moving, which are really important when we're trying to improve our riding. So a lot of times when riding is taught conventionally, it's taught a lot through verbal instruction. So we're told ideas like, we need to feel the flat of the thigh against the saddle. We need to feel our sit bones squarely in the center of the saddle with our pelvis, even in neutral position. We should feel like we are slightly, keeping our hands in front of us, and we need to keep a flat back, and so on and so on. But what makes it sometimes difficult to learn from just verbal instruction is we tend to try really hard to find this feeling. But until we feel what it is that we're looking for, it's really difficult to know if we're doing it right. The other thing that happens is anytime that we do something like riding, anytime that we have a pattern of movement, we tend to do things the same way almost every time. So we develop really strong patterns that get stored in the brain, and even when we know that a certain habit we have is not serving us well and we want to change it, it can be difficult to change because we've got such a strong pattern. But when we start using kind of fun little tools like this, what it does is it gives us different feelings, and it also challenges us or kind of causes us to move in different ways. So it basically breaks those old patterns so that we can actually discover new ways of moving and we can feel new feelings. So I came onto the concept of using different teaching tools like this a long time ago, and I've had some really good teachers that have given me tons of ideas along the way. And I'm going to share some of those resources with you, and I'll talk a little bit in a minute about kind of how I've learned to use some of the things here. But one of the main resources that I've had in learning this has been Wendy Murdoch, and Wendy has training in the Feldenkrais method. And a big idea in Feldenkrais is the idea of non-habitual movements. So it's just learning to use our bodies and move in a different way, which is really important, again, when we're trying to learn riding, when we're trying to change those old riding habits that we know are not helping us in the saddle. So I'm going to go over a few of the things that I have here and how they can be used. I'll start with some of the new ones that I'm using. You may have seen some pictures of these floating around on my different social media channels. So I was at Equitana, Germany recently and discovered a instructor named Sybil who has been adapting some tools from the Franklin method to her riding instruction. So anytime that I see someone using fun ideas like this to teach, I'm always really intrigued by it, and I always want to learn more. So what's neat about these is you can use them basically in a lot of different places on the body. For example, under the arm, moving the arm, between the thigh and the saddle, or even actually sitting right on them. And it brings your awareness to that different part of your body, and also because you've got this thing, somewhere, it's a completely different feeling than you're used to, and it makes you move completely different. So really, really fascinating how when new movements are triggered, all of a sudden we can start to feel things that we were looking for. And once we have that feeling, it's a lot easier to find it in the future. So this is an elastic band that I've also been using quite frequently. This can be kind of wrapped around the body in a variety of different ways. One of the ones that I find most interesting is taking it behind the rider's back, and then you just put your hands in the front, And it's really, really useful for feeling your low back position, because what happens is you kind of get instant feedback as soon as you arch or hollow your back. When you're riding, you get the feedback of the elasticity, the tension against your back from this strap goes away. But when you can keep a flat back, you can keep the feeling of that little bit of tension here. So another example of how using tools like this, it just brings awareness to different parts of the body. And I mentioned Wendy just a minute ago. She's kind of developing and using this same concept for horses in developing her Surefoot system. So it's a variety of different pads that work the same way in that they just give the horse a different sensation and can actually start to get the horse balancing, carrying their body, and moving a little bit differently. The final thing that is pretty cool about using tools like this to learn is that it can make the learning process more fun, because what happens when you're working with this kind of stuff is it starts to feel like you're just playing and you're just exploring and kind of discovering new feelings, new ways of moving, versus when we're trying so hard to go after an ideal, we can put a lot of mental pressure, and I think we can get frustrated a little bit quicker because we're trying so hard to find this certain feeling and to move in the right way. But when we can start using ideas like this, it becomes a lot more fun because we're just kind of exploring and figuring out the best alignments, the best places of balance for our own individual bodies. As I mentioned earlier, I have some resources to share with you. So I got a few of my favorite books here. This is Linda Tellington Jones. She was a very wise woman in incorporating these kind of concepts with not just riders but also with horses. And this is a really good book for learning to use some of those ideas. And then also I have Wendy Murdoch's 2 books here where she shares a lot of how to use these different tools, a lot of other tools, and even what I have here, use ideas like these simple elastic bands to find different leg positions or just different sensations. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that this gives you some ideas for how you can kind of explore on your own. And the best thing about using these kinds of tools is you don't necessarily need an instructor to be right there with you. You can have fun, you can play around, and you can improve your riding on your own, even if you're not in that time in a lesson, because with most of these, there's not really a wrong way to do it. And I like things where there's not really a wrong way to do it. So thank you for watching. If you're seeing this anywhere besides crktrainingblog.com, go there. I'll send you video updates, and that's always where the best conversation and questions happen. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you back soon.